All right, Shalom, Shalom.
Shalom.
We're the brothers of Great Millstone Charlotte, coming at you again through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai. And before we get started, we'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Racha Kwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who taught us the truth and rule well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. To you we say Shalom.
Shalom.
So in this lesson, pretty much we're going to entitle it "The World is Losing Faith." Okay, and that's pursuant to an article that I have pulled up, but I can't show it on the screen because uh just my phone won't allow me to. But we're going to read it out. But before we touch into this article, we're going to go ahead and get that out. Matthew Baba Kushta.
Con. This is Matthew chapter 7 and verse 24. In the subtitle, it says the two foundations. It says, Therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man which built his house upon a rock.
So it says, "Whosoever heareth the sayings of mine," which that's talking about the scriptures, right? This word, this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, right? Those who take heed and apply what is being said, he says he likens them unto a wise man that built his house upon a rock. And as we understand, you know, a good whenever you're trying to build anything, if you're trying to build a house, for example, you want to have a good foundation, you know, and essentially a house serves as protection, right? So in these times that we're coming into, protection is needed for the storm that's about to brew, right? So you got to have your foundation solid and your building erected strong. But mainly that foundation has to be strong because otherwise that building on top that building that you're trying to build, it ain't gonna hold, it ain't gonna stand. But you go ahead, I
Con, it says, verse 25, And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock.
gone. So that rain, the floods, that wind, it's all similar to judgment, to pretty much prophecy, the calamities that's about to take place here on the planet Earth uh, here very soon, right? So it says, and the rains descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. Right. So the foundation was strong. It was strong enough to withstand pretty much all the floods, right? The rain, the wind. Again, being a similitude to the calamities and the evils that's about to befall the earth. So those that's founded upon that foundation are going to withstand, you know, are going to endure, are going to be able to endure, all the evils that we're about to witness. But you got it,
Con, keep going in this, Matthew.
Khan, unless you have something.
Con. This is Matthew 7 and verse 26. And it says, And everyone that heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them not shall be likened unto a foolish man which built his house upon the sand.
Right. So it says, uh, and everyone that hears these sayings of mine and doeth them not. So this word has gone out. It's gone out to the four corners of the earth. Everybody by now has heard this word, right? And by everybody, of course, everybody in the world, but primarily speaking to uh, you Israelites, you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, right? So if you don't apply to what you're listening to from the prophets, then ultimately you're as the foolish man, because ultimately this is the counsel of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. This is the word of the Lord speaking unto you and giving you that warning to prepare and get ready for this storm that's about to hit, right? So you will be likened unto a foolish man because why? You didn't get yourself ready. Because it says, shall be likened unto a foolish man which built his house upon the sand. Right. And as we know, sand is very malleable. It's very, it's soft. It's not strong. Whenever you uh, 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 build a sandcastle in the beach, you know, when the once the winds and the waves come and saying the rain starts hitting that sandcastle, it's done. It holds. It's going to give little resistance to the evils that's about to come, metaphorically, right? So let me see. You can finish it out to verse 27. Baruch
Con,
Shah.
this is Matthew 7 and verse 27. And it says, "And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it."
Right? And great was the fall of it. And that's what we're seeing with majority of Americans right now, is that they're getting ready for a major fall, right? Especially because they're not, well, we understand that salvation ain't for the heathen. You know what I'm saying? The scriptures talk about how salvation is hoped for in vain from the hills and from the multitude of mountains, right? Those mountains represent nations, you know? So salvation is only for the nation of Israel, right? So we understand that this preparation of getting yourself ready for the return of our Lord, we understand that it's only for Israel at the end of the day, right?
Mm.
But within these Americans, Jake is mixed up in them, you know, and we see in Jake pretty much giving up on believing in the Bible, giving up on believing on what was once the highest attended to church. You know what I'm saying? Like the Christian church, the Catholic churches. Jake used to be all up in there, but now we're seeing things die down. Ultimately Jake is turning to be an atheist. Or reverting to different religions. But even in these other religions, we see Jake fall away from that. Why?
Mm-hmm.
These people who trusted in these different idols, who relied upon these different doctrines and different religions, now we're seeing them start to fall. Now we're seeing that foundation that they try to set themselves up on has been faulty, and now we're seeing it crumble. We're seeing it fall. Now people are starting to give up, and now resorting to, calling on their ancestors, you know, calling upon goddamn Satan now, doing all kinds of witchcrafts. Hey, Shalom, Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Bashem, Rachak, Wadash, Barakatah.
Shalom, shalom.
Um, I guess we're gonna get that article now. Let me go ahead and get to it.
I had a quick precept if I can.
Okay, Khan, you got it.
This is Psalms 97 and 7. It says, "Confounded be all they that serve graven images, that boast themselves of idols." It says, "Worship him all ye powers." And pretty much, Jake and the heathen, 2/3 of Jake, they essentially confide in, different idols. All right. And also the heathen, but ultimately, we're in a process of time to where, essentially this truth is exposing those altered ways of life, and they're showing them to, or excuse me, the truth is showing it to be of no avail, So ultimately, these the followers of those different idols are in a very confused and disoriented type of a state.
Khan, they're pretty much being led astray. They're being pretty much led away into what does the scripture say in Wisdom of Solomon? Let me get it, the fifth chapter. It talks about the paths that these people walk in. Let me get it real quick. This is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5. Let's see. I'm gonna start at verse 6. It says, "Therefore we have erred from the way of truth, and the light of righteousness hath not shined unto us, and the Son of Righteousness rose not upon us. We wearied ourselves in the way of wickedness and destruction. Yea, we have gone through deserts. See, so those are the paths that these people are walking, and they're walking through deserts, man, by subscribing to these different idols, worshiping these different, idols, going to these, or believing in these different doctrines and religions and whatnot. They're essentially walking through deserts. In the desert, there's no life in the desert. There's nothing but, dryness, death. You go to the desert, you're likely to die unless you have water, you know? And these people are out here dry as hell, going to these deserts, getting no answers, not getting any better, you know? So it says, yea, we have gone through deserts where there lay no way, but as for the way of the Lord, we have not known it. Right. And essentially, like I said, that's the way of the Lord is you building your house upon that rock, man. That's where you're gonna have that strong foundation. But we see a lot of people, they're not being defended, or they're not setting themselves up with the right defense, with the right foundation. You see, which is gonna have a lot of these people in a state of despair when all hell breaks loose. We already seeing, how the society is crumbling. With Donald Trump and these, Epstein files. You got the MAGA people, uh, uh, against each other. Everything's divided. Everything is crumbling here in America. The economy is fucked up. We're going through uh, what looks like a recession, right? So people are starting to lose faith. A lot of these people that go into these churches, they're not they're not seeing no answer. They're not seeing, an answer to what their current problem is. Hey, Baba Kushal, you
Hmm.
might get in that preset where it says, uh, none shall want her mate,
Hmm.
because the answers are in the Bible, right? The answers are in the scriptures, but these Christians, these Catholics, they don't got the answers. They're not able to break it down because ultimately, this word, this truth, this knowledge was given to a certain select men, you know, who were prophets back in their past lives, coming back now and prophesying again.
Con,
But
this
you
is
got it, Doc.
Isaiah. Con, this is Isaiah 34:16. It says, "Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail. None shall want her mate. For my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them."
Right. So it says, none of these shall fail. None shall want her mate. Right. So no prophecy is going to fail, but also said none shall want her mate because there's no other book out here that can compare it to the Bible. The scriptures talk about what is it in Isaiah, I believe it says, or in Ezekiel. Um, I can't remember how it goes, but pretty much it goes something along the lines of produce your cause. You know what I'm
Uh,
saying?
Isaiah 41.
Khan, Baba Kushai, you mind getting that?
Con. This is
Because that's
Isaiah.
essentially what we're out here to do. We're out here to let you know that these other religions that Jake is subscribing to is not going to lead him to nowhere. It's not going to produce him no answers. But you got it, Doc.
Con, this is Isaiah 41 and verse 20. And it says that they may see and know and consider and understand together that the hand of the Lord hath done this, and the Holy One of Israel hath created it. Produce your cause, saith the Lord. Bring forth your strong reasons, saith the King of Jacob. Let them bring them forth, and shew us what shall happen. Let them shew the former things, what they be, that we may consider them, and know the latter end of them, or declare us the things for to come.
Right. So essentially, that's what we're at. That's what we're saying to these, or whatever book y'all coming from. Then produce your cause. Show us the evidence. Show us what you got. but no one can. None of these different religions can compete with the truth, right? These other religions are based off nothing but lies, and the truth just trumps it all. You see, but we can go back unless you have something.
Lie.
'Cause I'm gonna get this article from Axios. It reads: U.S. faith levels plummet to lowest on record. It says fewer than half of Americans now say religion is an important part of their daily lives, a 17% point drop since 2015, which ranks among the largest declines in the world, according to the new Gallup poll. Right, so that's 17%. In the short period of time from 2015 until 2025, so a 10-year period, you have 17% of Americans, you know, pretty much say, that they're not part of a religion. But it says why it matters. It says the U.S. was once exceptional for its high religiosity among wealthy nations. This is the shift reflects profound cultural changes that could reshape politics, social ties, and even national identity.
I got
But
a
really, it's
precept.
just the people. The society, is becoming more and more decadent. You know, poverty, is skyrocketing. So people are, you know, and people ultimately never had faith in the first place. You know, these heathen, the scriptures ain't, was never for them. So for them to say they believe, they don't understand what they're believing in. But when it comes to Jake, even when it comes to Jake, I remember I brought out several times on different videos how Jake's, you know, faith has pretty much plummeted to now where Jake has become atheist, has, like I said, started worshiping to their ancestors or calling do all these different things, you know, to try to seem like they're tapping into their roots, but ultimately you tapping into uh, 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 what got our people cursed in the first place. You see, and now we're going to see that same cycle of the Most High bringing curses and bringing judgment onto Jake. Right. This is why we see in the world as it is build up to this, you know, time period where we're going to start seeing greater evils, man. You're reading, I believe it's Wisdom of Solomon, the 40th chapter in the 10th verse, or the 8th verse. It mentions, how all these evils are prepared to come down upon these people. Let me see. Let me go ahead and read a little bit more into this. It says, by the numbers, it says in the latest Gallup poll released Thursday, only 49% of U.S. adults say religion is essential in their daily life, down from 66% in 2015. That decline is among the biggest measured globally since 2007. Among 38 organizations for economic cooperation and development, nations, a median of 36% of adults call religion important. It figured the U.S. is rapidly approaching. Let me see. It's just giving me some bullets. I want to. Okay, right here. It's a state of play. An unprecedented 15,000 churches in the U.S. are estimated to shut their doors this year. See, so Jake is leaving the churches, man. Even a lot of these heathen, they're leaving the churches. It says far more than a few thousand expected to open, according to denominational reports and church consultants. Let me see. It says a record number of Americans, 29%, also are identifying as religiously unaffiliated, and
Got a precept,
62.
bro.
Con, you got it.
God, this is Isaiah chapter 19 and verse 1. And it says, the burden of Egypt. All right, that word for burden goes into a utterance. And the blue letter titles it as chiefly a doom, because it's a doom what this place has to look forward to. So it says, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud. All right, in which the Lord Yahweh is dispatching, his son Yahweh Shai to come, with the fathership. And it says, behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence. In which ultimately, the idols of Egypt are being moved, at the presence of his truth, because what was, one of the things that, made America so called great, they had the conglomeration, but then also the fact that pretty much a lot of people in this country was into the various different types of altered ways of life, philosophies, whether it was Islam or Christianity, but pretty much people pretty much got together in America, Babylon the Great, so that specific idol is being removed out of the way, So it
Mm.
says, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence. Hey, and the followers of those different idols, essentially they didn't have stability back then, you see, but now they're really without any type of hope, you see, because they don't have anything to confide in. But it says,
Mm.
finishing out, it says, shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. Essentially that American dream is being removed. That's why, a lot of people, they no longer have any type of faith in anything.
God. Yeah, people are losing hope in the American dream. People are losing hope in Jesus Christ. People are losing hope in Islam. People are losing hope in everything, man. The economy. People are about ready to crash out. Just like our apostles always say, when people have nothing to lose, they lose it, you know? So once society really starts to reach its breaking point, we're about to start seeing, like the scripture says, the love of many start waxing cold, man. It's already starting now, but imagine whenever people's minds is fully set on just trying to eat, on trying to, what I'm saying, seek some form of opportunity to make it out of the situation that they're in. You know, People are going to start reverting to um, what would you call it? I guess instant, uh, instant results, which is going to lead to them what robbing people, stealing, killing. What I'm saying, doing whatever they need to do in order to eat, right? So all these so-called Christians, when they start, praying to Jesus and they start seeing no results, these people are gonna start crashing out, man. They start seeing the loved ones dying. So the times that we're coming into, is time like no other. You read about it in the book of Daniel, right? I believe it was the 12th chapter, right? Pretty much the archangel Michael has to come and defend the elect. So this is how bad it's gonna get. So, like we mentioned, that we brought in the beginning in Matthew, the 7th chapter, all these people that built their house upon the sand, what's going to happen is going to be a great crashing, you know. But let me get this precept. That's pretty much it on the article, though. Let me see. Let me get this. This is Isaiah 2 in verse 20. It says, "In that day, a man shall cast his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which they have made one for himself to worship, to the moles and to the bats." So that's pretty much what we're going to start seeing, right? People, casting out their idols. People, you know, uh, 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 burning their images. You've seen that in India, whenever the whole C-19 thing was going on, right? With the whole with the Jabberwocky, people weren't praying to their I don't know what they worship over there, but they were praying to their God, and They weren't getting no results. People were dying left and right, so they just started casting their idols out in the street, man. That's what we're gonna start seeing. People taking down their crosses, burning their Bibles. That's what we're gonna start seeing here soon. Especially from these Edomites. Especially once they start finding out the truth. Once the truth really starts hitting in their hearts. Hey, man, these Edomites are gonna start casting Christianity away like a dirty rag, man. But it says, verse 21, it says to go to the clefts of the rock and in the tops of the ragged rocks for the fear of the Lord and for the glory of his majesty when he arises to shake terribly the earth. You see? Because ultimately they understand that judgment is going to come for them. So there's going to be nothing that's going to be able to deliver them from the judgment that's being pronounced, right? And that's being proclaimed. It says, that was pretty much it on that, actually. Do you have anything?
I got a quick precept.
Con.
This is Habakkuk chapter 2. Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse 18. And it says, what profiteth the graven image that the maker thereof hath graven it, the molten image and the teacher of lies? Because ultimately, the question that's being posed here says, what profit, what benefit, does, idol have? And the answer is nothing. It says, the molten image and a teacher of lies. These things ultimately teach deceptions, things that make people feel good. It says that the maker of his work trusted therein to make dumb idols. In the times that we're in currently, JC is just sitting on the wall, not giving his followers any type of instructions. So it says, woe unto him that saith to the wood, awake, to the dumb stone, arise, it shall teach. Behold, it is laid over with gold and silver, and there is no breath at all in the midst of it. So really going into these different idols and philosophies and things of that nature. It says it's laid over gold and silver. It's just something that looks good to the eye, you see, but ultimately it doesn't have any type of understanding, neither prophecy, in it.
Mm, con. That's pretty much it. That's all I had. Unless you had something else.
Allah.
As a matter of fact, I'll close it off with this precept. This is Luke 18, verse 8. It says, as a matter of fact, I'll start at verse 6. It says, and the Lord said, hear what the unjust judge saith, and shall not the Most High avenge his own elect, which cry day and night unto him, though he bear long with them? It says, I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth? Right? So we understand that the Lord Yahweh is on his way. But in that process of time, because we understand that a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. So, you know, patience is going to be a necessity, in this time that we're coming into, and endurance in all uh, the capacity to endure, the evils that we're about to come into. But that's all. This is all ties into, building that foundation. You know what I'm saying? Those that's gonna remain and have that faith in the end are gonna be those that have built up, a good foundation, right? So the most important thing is definitely, getting that foundation right, and that all starts off with fearing Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. You know, was that Proverbs 1:7, Psalms 1:11 and 10, right? How the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. So that's where you start. You know, starting out with the names. And that's how you start. Building yourself up. But as we see, the world start to lose faith and start to lose hope. We got to start, locking in even more and tapping into, those blessings, man. But that was pretty much what I had, Art. Unless you have something else, I'm gonna go ahead and close it out.
Not have anything.
So with that, we're going to go ahead and close it out by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Racha, Kodash, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who taught us the truth and well. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect, pushing his word throughout the four corners of the earth in truth, righteousness, and sincerity. The next time we're going to say Shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom.